Hey guys, welcome to another episode of SDI's Desktop Discourse. My name is Angel Paige Smigelski, pronouns they, them. I am a student at Columbia as well as a worker here. This episode is about working at your own pace, a little extended version of our stillness episode we had back in quarantine days. So go check that out if you haven't listened to it. And I got two great people to talk to.
Okay, I can go. My name is Marisa Jones. Pronouns are they, she. I'm a student worker at SDI, and I'm excited to talk about this.
My name is Gabriel. I'm also a SDI worker. And I guess like what we all have common is like we're all artists. So, we're all like some form of artists.
Which is super interesting about working on your own pace as an artist. That's something we could talk about too.
Yeah.
Interesting. But for real, does working at your own pace even like work out for you guys? Because I feel like a lot of times I just end up missing deadlines, crying in the bed, like it doesn't really work out.
Yes and no. I feel like I have to find like this balance kind of between like making sure I'm like actually getting things done on time and like putting aside time to do my work, but also like even if I can just take like a small break in the day, like making sure to have that and to like kind of like I don't know, like improve my mood, like start to feel better, like have some alone time. And I think working at your pace as an artist is a lot different, which we'll get into, but I feel like if I have like the right balance, like working at my own pace is possible to a point where it doesn't like interfere with like what I have to be doing.
So what does that balance look like?
That balance is kind of just like doing all my work because I have a lot of work this semester, and making sure like I do it, but like I spread it out as much as I can, and like taking at least like some time during the day to like do anything, like hang out with someone, like watch something, like treating myself by like getting food or like taking care of myself instead of like taking care of like school related things, and just doing things that like I need to like do, like get my groceries, like anything like that, and like just like having time to like do things that I need to do to take care of myself.
Gabriel, what do you have to say?
I kind of agree, but like working at your own pace is kind of like a very gray area. You know what I mean? Like some people it could work wonders. Some people it might like make them work even slower. You know, if you know what I mean. Obviously, like working at your own pace and like what we personally do as artists in our own pace is kind of like very different in a sense, because of like, in my opinion, the thought and effort comes in a very different approach. When I feel like when we're as artists, when we're doing whatever our craft are, like we find it more personal to ourselves. And I guess a big underlying factor for us would be like wanting to make it the best of what we can. Whereas if it's like homework assignments and stuff, it's more so like we have to get it done. And I guess I would see it as both a good and bad thing. Like I think mentally it would be like it's really good for you like working at your own pace. Like I think that's one of the ways we could like not get super like sad or pressed or stressed into like what we're doing. So like that's one of them. And I feel like it could like kind of goes in tandem with what I want to say about like, let's say like productivity shaming. I don't know if you guys encounter that, but like there's always people out there who kind of want to like make that a competition. You know, they're like, oh, like let's say for me, because I like make music, like I make beats and stuff. Some people will be like, yeah, today like I made like 4 beats today, and I'm just like, okay, I made none today. What, like, you know, it's like, I might go and make another one, making it sound like he's doing so much work. But for me, I was just like, I work on my own pace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need you telling me that back in your day that you did like this and this, you know, like that's maybe how you operate. Like I could even say like I work in bursts, you know, like for a good period of time I just like not do stuff, but in like a span of 2 or 3 days I'd catch up with all the work, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I think, like working it could like benefit you at the same time as like maybe inhibit you, but that just depends on your personality, I guess.
I think like working at your own pace as an artist is so interesting because in society we are trained, especially in this country, living in America, you like it's like we're known for mass production. We're known to just continue to produce things. So we're kind of in this thing where it's like if you're not doing something, you feel like incomplete in a way. So being like that as a human being in this country in general and maybe across the world, and then also being an artist, that kind of really impedes on you and how like you feel like you need to produce work. You need to consistently produce in order for you to feel validated as an artist, even though you could definitely just work. When you work at your own pace, like I said, like the artists who take their time with their work, like SZA dropped Control in like when I graduated high school. So that was like 2016, 2017. And she just now started coming out with new music. So it's like taking those years of time to yourself is really important, but we get stuck in this thing of like, we have to be productive. When it's like, what is the real definition of productivity though? Like what does that really mean to you? Does it mean you have to go outside and you have to go sell this, you have to go do this? Or is it just you being productive in the way of like, oh, I'm just trying to be a better human being every day? And some days you don't gotta do shit. Like some days doesn't really call for productivity. Like sometimes it's cool as fuck to just lay in the bed. There's literally nothing wrong with that. Like nothing, but we are trained that there is absolutely something wrong with you. And that's why people get even more depressed because they're in the bed, they're fighting this thing, but they're like, oh my gosh, now I'm also not anything to society. So.
Yo, shout out to SDI because they really help with that, you know, they understand. So that shit really just like, I know it resonated because SDI really cares. You know how we're just like, yeah, like we're having a bad day, and then they kind of like help us through it. You know what I mean? They're just like, it's okay, just complete it by the end of the week and that kind of stuff. I feel like that kind of encouragement and working at your own pace could most definitely benefit you by a lot. You know, like I think encouragement as well as like understanding, like of your peers and around everyone around you. I think in a sense would benefit like how you work. Like, I mean, in the workspace like SDI, I feel like because they were so understanding of like this whole like productivity shaming is like a bad thing and everything, it helped me work more efficiently. As in like, oh, like I'm not dreading to work. Like my mind is still fresh. Like, oh, I want to do this kind of stuff.
Right. I love that we work here. I'm gonna be so sad when we can't work here. Like,
I know, right?
It's really, the day is coming.
There's also like this idea that like sometimes the most productive thing that you can do is like taking a break and like doing that. And like you said, like what does productivity like even mean really? Like, because that looks different for every person. And sometimes like taking time to like focus on yourself and like growing and like taking a break is like more productive.
Right. I say it's productive. Like regardless, like even a day of like, oh, I am just not really feeling mentally there, I think I'm just gonna stay in and watch Netflix. That's productive. That's like really productive for your brain. You know, you are not set to encounter other human beings or go out into the world, so you're doing something productive to make yourself feel better so that you can do said things. Like you just chilling is also productive. Like productivity does not have to go down to numbers and writing all this stuff that we are known, especially corporate America. We're always, when I think about productivity, I think about corporate America because they're known for mass production. So yeah, it's just stuff like that where I'm just like, we don't really need to be doing all this. But
I agree.
There's just like the idea that like to be productive, we have to be working constantly without like a break.
And then breaks are considered like rewards. Like, have you ever, okay, like,
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't have to feel like, and we like burnout is such a big thing. And I feel like we feel like we only deserve a break when we hit burnout. And I'm like, no, if you just want to stop. Like this is the things that we're already trained to do. Like we're trained to work until we cannot work. It's like, damn, I need a break, not I want a break.
Because it's interesting because I think I was talking to this with my roommates last night, but I was talking about like the mindset of how like what people think of being in America is kind of like if you are like living in America and you're working most of the time, people think if you work the hardest and the most, like you basically make the most bread, you know, that kind of stuff. Like that doesn't mean like shit. They're saying like if you put like most of your effort, like all your life working, like that doesn't mean necessarily like I'll be happy with what I have, you know. Like an example would kind of be like I could work smarter, but in the end it's more rewarding to work harder. Like, you know, people would like it better if they heard that you had some hardships. And I feel like that mentality also kind of like fuels into this like productivity shaming of like working on your own pace. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times you'll see people comparing how this person works with another person, and I feel like they're two completely different people. They probably operate different ways, you know? Like there's no way I can compare myself to like let's say like Metro Boomin and like a really famous like a producer. I can't say I might have different work ethics than him, but right. I feel like the quality of work it depends on like I guess what people say, but I feel like that like I shouldn't be ashamed of working at my own pace, and I feel like that's what happens a lot of times, and people don't take time to themselves.
I feel like that comes from like the consistency of most of the 9 times out of 10 the things that we do in this world, we don't do it for ourselves. We tend to do it for other people. So kind of like transforming that, because I'm not about to sit here and say don't do shit for nobody, because that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying you should definitely do a lot more for yourself. So if that includes working at your own pace, maybe you work a little slower than homegirl next to you or anything like that, that's totally fine. But as long as the work gets done and the quality is there that you want to be there, that's what really matters. And I think that's what a lot of like I've always said that the environment at SDI is something that I think so many companies and other departments, even at the school, let alone like in general, should just have a different type of work ethic of like, it's okay that like we realize you are a human being. I realized on so many, have you ever realized on so many applications, they say like, they ask you if you have a bad day, how would you react?
Yeah.
And I think that's such a weird question to ask, because they're trying to see if like you can keep your emotions bottled up enough to end your shift. And I'm like, I think that's mad weird. Like why would you like and that's and it say something happens to me, I'm in touch with my emotions, something happens, I get upset. Are you saying because I am attached to myself and know myself and I'm aware that I can have an emotion, you would not hire me because you don't want me to do something on the floor, or you don't want me to do something on the sales floor, like that's like a really weird concept that like companies know that you have emotions, and they're basically trying to tell you like, hey, can you put that on the back while you're on the floor? That's like very strange motive. So I'm like, that's another thing. It's like, I think companies, they adopt the idea that we are human beings, but we just happen to work for this grand company, as opposed to we're all these cogs in this machine and not nobody's supposed to break down. So if you do, there's something wrong with your ass. Yeah, like it's working at that pace. Instead, we would have a lot more open-minded people. We would have a lot more rested people. We would have a lot more clarity on what our position is in the company as well as the world. And then we want to go to work. You would want to go to work. There are definitely days where I'm like, I do not want to go to work. I got 2 jobs. I'd always want to come to SDI, but I have another and I'm like, sometimes I don't want to go because
No,
it's like I just don't want to do that shit. You're very fortunate if you have a job that you like. That's unfortunately a very rare thing to have, and you are quite lucky. Nobody should. I don't think anyone should feel like, ugh, I have to go to work. This is something you should generally want to do.
Agreed. Y'all ever like worked in retail and like these guys would be like counting how much sales you made in like a certain period of time, and kind of like they use that as a basis and like basically like I guess in a sense treat certain workers better, or like give them like a raise, or like you know what I mean?
They
like
give more hours. Yes, the more productive you are to them. That is how you hold your place in a company. Which I work at Foot Locker. That's literally how that works.
Yeah, it's kind of like no, sorry, Marisa, go please.
I used to be a waitress, and it's like waitresses get half minimum wage. Like you don't even get full minimum wage. Like you make the rest of your money off of tips. So it's kind of like and like you have to have like an upbeat, like bubbly personality. Like when you're a waitress, like you have to constantly seem happy and like do whatever you can to like please the customer. And sometimes, and like if you don't, then you don't get as much money. Right. Like you're kind of like punished for that almost.
And it's crazy like when you're like in other countries and stuff like that. Like I remember when I went to Paris, when we Marisa both went to Paris, and how waitressing is like, or being a server is like a profession to them. Like it's very well respected, and you usually don't have to tip because they get paid so well. And here, like I just think that's so insane. And then you guys ever thought about like minimal, like really think about like, oh, I get paid like here in Chicago, I think it's usually like around $14 an hour or something like that. But do you ever really think about like you did an hour's worth of work and somebody hands you $14?
Yeah.
Like, you know how fucked up that is? You know how mad I would be if I sat here and I just busted my ass for an hour and you gave me $14?
My, because I was working in Ohio, where I'm from, sadly, like, and like half minimum wage at the time where I was a waitress was about $4 an hour.
You know how mad I would be if I busted my ass for an hour and you gave me $4?
Yeah, like $4 an hour.
That's garbage.
And then there's days when it's not even your fault that like sometimes people just don't come in. Sometimes there's just, and like even in retail, sometimes like you can't make as many sales in a day.
Right.
It's kind of like you're punished for that. And
I feel like that's counter like productive on if that's the way they wanted to like encourage workers to work better, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If they're using that as a like, because like it's like what Angel they said was that like, so if you make more sales, then you get more hours. Like if I get less hours than a person, and like obviously there will be a higher chance that I get less sales than him, or him, her, or them. They, you know, like it's just like it makes like it makes no sense, you know? Like it's like, why take away hours if you want me to work better, you know? Like it's kind of counterintuitive. And then like going back of like how we're saying about being happy, like being treated like a human, I feel like that I kind of work, I guess in it works in tandem with like shaming how you work and like how it stops you, because we're all talking about how it feels like we have to be rewarded a break, and that's definitely how it shouldn't be, you know? It should be like, oh, I worked like, oh, let's say like I washed all the dishes from like lunch, like the lunch hour for when I'm like working as a server and I had to like wash dishes. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for like me to go. I feel like I should rest at least like 10 minutes after that, you know? Like I shouldn't just immediately go back to the floor with everyone else and like like work like crazy and then have the same break as everyone, just an hour, even though I was the one that they delegated this job to. You know what I mean? Like going back with like minimum wage, back home when I first started working, minimum wage was $4. That's the actual like minimum wage back home. And like it's crazy because later on, like a year later, as I was working in a different like restaurant, I've noticed like I started making more than minimum wage. like, of course, it still increased. The minimum wage increased every year, but it got to a point where, let's say, minimum wage was like $5.50. Then I made like $8 as a server, and it wasn't even that high end of a restaurant or anything. And it's interesting because like I feel like a lot of people are working at a certain pace for rewards. Like they want something out of it. It's not simply for your own pleasure, but it's more so like you need it. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain like through words, like, in my opinion. But it's like,
yeah, it's like an exchange of goods. Like you give and take in life, you know?
Yeah, even with music though. If I make music, like sometimes I feel like I need that approval that it sounds good. So then I'll keep going. If someone says, oh, they don't like it, I'll immediately like start going into this block, and I'm just like, I don't want to work on this anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And that's like a really difficult thing with being an artist is like, and that's another thing. You usually ask people questions when you just want to bring content out, as opposed to like really working for the fact that you want to produce something that you really like. At the end of the day, art's really for yourself. You produce art as a reflection of you, and you just need to want to put it out there. That's usually how almost everything goes. Everything is personal in art. So when you put it out there, it's like, and when you address it to somebody else and they say they don't like it, you get into this weird world of like, oh, well, is it even good? And I'm like, well, it must be good enough if you even fathom to begin creating it. So it means something to you, it'll probably mean something to somebody else. It's not that person. Artists are sensitive about their shit already. So people addressing it to other human beings, stuff like that, and then us rushing work to get out into the world to show that you're productive. Hey, look, I still do things. Just kind of blocks that even more, and then you end up producing work that you don't like. I remember, for example, the artist Drake, when he started dropping albums back to back every year, people felt that his work just got less and less. It just got really lazy. I mean, you can say what you want about Drake. At the end of the day, he makes something people gonna listen to it. But just like people thought that his work got, sloppy. And you could say that for, I don't know, a bunch of people that produce work, and it came at like a mass production, like came like on a timeline and stuff like that. So yeah, just working at your own pace as an artist, you can just tell it comes more, there's more beef to it, or there's more weight to it.
Then do you, like, just as a question to y'all then, when y'all get like writer's block, do you force yourself to keep going, or do you stop there and come back later? Because I feel like a lot of times writer's block also like haunt us with working at our own pace. Like it should benefit us, but I feel like writer's block, productivity shaming kind of stops that benefits, Like I know for a fact, me, when I get like a writer's block, I'm like, I drop everything I'm doing. I'm like, yo, screw this, like screw music for now. I'm not gonna touch music, that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, it'll come back to me. But that kind of comes back to bite me in the ass, because I keep waiting like this, and I find myself, oh, it's 2 months now. It's been 2 months since I last made music or something like that. So I was kind of wondering on y'all's perspective, like how y'all would feel with this.
I think for me, I need sometimes when I'm writing something, like I just like stop. Like I can't think of like where to go after it, like how to keep the story going. And at least when I'm doing screenwriting, I feel like I can't like force myself to like keep going, because it just won't be right. So I feel like for me, I would take a break, but I would limit how long that break is. Like I wouldn't let myself take a break for more than like a couple days, and then like try again when I have like more ideas, or when I'm feeling more creative. But for me, yeah, it's just about like making sure I'm not letting myself take a break that's so long that like I completely lose sight of the project.
For me personally, in terms of writing, my major focus in writing is poetry, so my work is a little more abstract. So how I get writer's block is a little more abstract. Typically what I do, if I'm like writing a poem and I'm really stuck, I stop writing the poem and I'll go write in my journal and just think about how the fact that I have writer's block and just talk about it. And usually something will come out of that. I also like to read a lot of work. I think that's also something artists don't understand is like there's a time in your life where you just need to get inspiration. Like you don't have to just always be consistently creating. Even if you are, that's great. If you don't, there's sometimes you don't. Like especially for writers, I think there's a point in time where like you are creating work. There's also time you're just observing work. Like you are just reading and listening to music and watching movies and watching TV and just experiencing other things so that you can also, almost all of our ideas come from something. And half the time it comes from another artist that you really love and appreciate. Like a whole series of poems I write is based off of Solange's song, I Saw Things I Imagined. I have a whole series of poems about that, like that are inspired by that song. So like, stuff like that. It's like you can just take a break and experience something else. So like, or something like that, or just like stop focusing on that one thing. Like I said, I'll just go write in my journal and I'll think about anything. That's something my mentor used to make me do all the time. Before any class started, we would sit there for 5 minutes and meditate in like complete silence. It'd be dark as fuck. We're all just sitting there. And then for 5 minutes straight, they're like, write, just keep writing. It doesn't matter what the fuck you wrote down. One time I wrote BB Boo Boo and I wrote that like 12 times. And then I started writing about something else. I'm so serious, right? Anything that comes to your head. That's why I suggest to all writers is stop writing whatever you're supposed to be writing and just go write something else. Like, even if it's just like, I ate coffee today. I ate coffee. That shit like that. Like it definitely helps. It definitely helps to just like focus on something else for a second. And then come back later. Come back whenever you're ready. Like I said, working at your own pace. Come back when you are ready to do it. You don't have to force yourself to do something, but being in writer's block can sit on you. Like if you decide to just stop, like I have writer's block, I'm gonna just drop this for a second. It'll sit on the fact that you just dropped that. So that's why I say like go write or go do something or just like find a medium to let that out so that you're just letting the fact that you have block out of your body. So
it's interesting though how you said like you write about your writer's block. Like that's kind of like I never really like thought about it, you know, like writing about like that I have like writer's block. Like honestly, if I think about it, like if I could absorb what both of y'all said, like how Marisa's like they take their time, like but they still give themselves a certain time frame that they have to work through, is interesting, as well as like writing about the block to kind of help get over it. Like I feel like working at your own pace really does benefit you, but you have to just be like controlled about it, you know. Sometimes I feel like how would I say it? Like controlled as in like you set a certain pace, like you set a certain pace and then you follow through, I think would be pretty good. But like I don't know. I think no one should be ashamed for taking a 2-month break, 3-month break. Like, look at Rihanna. Like, when was the last time she released something? Like, a long time ago, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, and it's still fire.
Period. And she's working on other stuff. She chose other mediums. Like, she has so many companies. I just bought something from Savage Fenty today. Like, like she can do whatever she wants. And that's another thing. There are so many things in the world that we just cannot control. That is just what it is. That is how it's always going to be. And people have control issues. I know I have a Virgo moon, so I be trying to do all the stupid shit. But at the end of the day, the one thing you absolutely can control is yourself. And there are so many things that'll try to take that away from you, including how fast you work. So working at your own pace, in a way, is a power to yourself. That's all I gotta say.
On period, sis. I mean, so bottom line, do we all think that it benefits us then working at our own pace?
I think so, yeah.
Definitely.
Anything that we think like negative that can come through it though? Or I don't think there's like, I think there is some negatives, but I feel like there's so much, like there's way more good than bad that we don't. I feel like it's like I don't know, it's just like I feel like it's really good setting your own pace, like, you know, working your own pace, like without under no deadline. I mean, if you are like, good luck, you know, but but Yeah, I don't know. Like, cause I stopped touching music for like 3 months, and then finally I start making music again, and I release it, and then after I release a bunch, and I stop again. You know, like I do it in like increments, and I guess that burst is like one way of like me coping with like writer's block and stuff. You know, I'm just like, you know what, screw everything. I'm just gonna listen to music, not make music. Don't do anything. And I don't know, like oftentimes I feel like that makes me feel so bad about myself, because I'm like, for a few months I didn't do shit, you know. But honestly, I feel like if we can discard that feeling, it'll benefit us by a lot.
Yeah, and also I think working at your own pace is kind of harder when you go to art school and you have like assignments for like these projects to do. Like if you need more time, it's kind of hard because you don't have more time. So a lot of the times when I'm just like, I turn in work that I'm like, this isn't like ready yet because like I didn't have time to work at my own pace. I feel like I should feel bad about that. And like, yeah, I should just feel like bad about that. But it's all like, you work at your own pace and like it comes to you when it comes to you. And like, if you're taking care of yourself, you're being productive.
Yeah, at the end of the day, for people who are artists and they feel like they're not, like they feel bad when they're not like producing work, I think one thing we need to realize is that in order to give inspiration, we have to receive inspiration. So like if you're just not inspired right now, that is literally okay. There's literally nothing wrong with that. It's okay. Working at your own pace will only produce the work, whether you're an artist or not, it will only produce the work that you want to come out of your body and out of your mental. So yeah. And on that note, thanks for listening to this episode of Desktop Discourse on working at your own pace. Please follow us on our Instagram and do we have a Facebook? I don't even remember, but keep listening to our podcast on Spotify, I think we're on Apple Music, and we also on our YouTube channel. And on that note, we will catch you on the